What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. This is your boy FrankieBones, and in today's video we are going to be breaking down and giving you guys a preview of the NFL Conference Championship weekend games and providing you guys with some picks of what I'm going to be throwing in to try and hit that FrankieBones Best Bet Parlay. Quickly, I wanted to mention before we hop into the video, again, this video does involve gambling, so just wanted to note again, if you or someone that you know has been struggling with gambling or maybe it's negatively affecting their life, please feel free to reach out to 1-800-GAMBLER, as well as potentially reaching out to your local gaming board, where they will be able to provide you with some additional resources and hopefully be able to help with the troubles that gambling may be resulting in. So after that quick note, some things about the games coming up this weekend. Both games are going to be played on Sunday afternoon/evening. Games will be at 3 p.m. and 6:30 p.m. So we do have another great weekend of football ahead. Now, what's very interesting is that, in my opinion, both matchups between the two teams, both in the NFC and the AFC, are very similar. They have very similarly constructed teams, and it'll be really interesting to see how these games play out. I personally think that both these games are going to be dogfights, but we will go into that a little bit as we go into each game in particular. And the last thing of note on the games in general, I think that both teams, or both of the matchups, so both teams coming out of each conference, are the two best teams in the conference. Now, it hurts me to say that as a Giants fan, but clearly being there on Saturday, the Giants were really just outclassed and outmanned. The Eagles played a great game. I think the 49ers, again, are the first or second best team in the NFC, as well as the Bengals and the Chiefs. I think that both teams have just been on absolute heaters. Patty MAHOMES has been proving us wrong the entire season without his top guy in Tyreek Hill, who's now in Miami. I think that ultimately these are the two best teams coming out of each conference, sort of giving us that dream matchup that we always hope for every single year. So, kicking us off in the early window, starting at 3 p.m. Eastern on Fox, will be the NFC Championship Game between the San Francisco 49ers and the Philadelphia Eagles. So this line opened up actually at Philadelphia minus 2.5. Really shouldn't be too much of a surprise. They've obviously been a great team. Had a very strong showing last week, and everybody knows the home field advantages of the link. So I threw some stats up here on the graphic just to give you guys an idea of how similar I think these teams are. I've sort of mentioned before, I'm not a massive stat guy. You really have to go out and obviously play the game. That's really why you have to show up every week, and the teams that make it to the Super Bowl are incredibly deserving of that, whether they got hot at the end or not. You have to show up when it counts, and I just think these teams are really similarly matched, and it's going to be a dogfight. Talking a little bit about the similarities between the teams, and I think it's a great shout out to both GMs of the teams. I think that John Lynch has done an incredible job. He used to be with Denver. He came over to the 49ers a handful of years ago, and they've really been phenomenal under his reign. I think that him and Shanahan have done a great job of instilling a great system. I think that Howie Roseman has done a very great job of that as well. Both teams and both GMs doing an incredible job of getting guys in the draft, as well as getting guys in free agency, and both teams even picking up some key pieces throughout the year to put them in a great position for a playoff run. So I think that, as well as the way that they're built, I think that both teams have similar game plans in a way. So what I mean by that is both teams run the ball incredibly effectively. You can look at the stats. The 49ers averaging just under 140 rushing yards a game, as well as the Eagles at 147.6. Just under 150, both teams do a great job of running the ball effectively, although I think both teams accomplish this in a different way. So starting with San Francisco, they run a pretty heavy zone scheme, but at the same time, they run a lot of very similar formations that they're able to sort of make small adjustments to. They have a great offensive line. Really winning in the trenches is how both these teams are built, and honestly are probably the reason why both teams are in this situation. But 49ers do a great job of running the zone scheme. They do a great job of having that tag, that tackle and guard pulling. They do a great job of passing off responsibilities, masking plays. I think that their system is really just incredible, which is supplemented by a great offensive line. And they also get their wide receivers involved in the running game as well. They'll put Deebo Samuel in the backfield. They'll hand it off to Ayuk on a jet motion, and not specifically run plays, but they do a great job of getting the ball to their playmakers on the outside, whether it's Christian McCaffrey, Deebo, Ayuk, all those guys. I think that is sort of how their team is best set up when they're running the football. Now looking over at the Philadelphia Eagles, they have Jalen Hurts, who obviously is one of the best running quarterbacks in the league. Does a great job of extending plays, and that'll certainly be a challenge for the 49ers defense. But they also run a great zone and power scheme. Their offensive line is phenomenal. I'd put them at 1 and 2. I'm not going to rank them here personally, but definitely the top 2 offensive lines in the league. And I think we're going to see a lot of running the damn football in this early game on Sunday. So going over the strengths of each team's, again, I'm not saying one is better than the other in some of these specific scenarios, but just sort of listing some of the strengths of the teams. You can see them sort of listed at the bottom, but I'll elaborate on them a little bit further here. For San Francisco, their first strength, running the football. They've done an incredible job all year, sort of like I was talking about with the line, really utilizing the scheme and being able to scheme things up, whether it's passing responsibilities, masking plays, misdirections. They do an incredible job running the football. Nobody would dispute that. Blocking on the outside. In my opinion, I think they have the best blocking tight end in all of football, who's George Kittle. I think they have one of the best blocking receivers in all of football. That's Brandon Ayuk. And when you're able to get these guys blocking on the outside and downfield, that's how you end up with these monster plays. The 49ers really have a great capacity to do that, especially on the ground. They can through the air as well, but particularly I love their blocking on the outside. Their run defense is incredibly stout. You can see here their rush yards per game allowed, just under 80 at 78 yards a game. They're incredibly stout on defense. Their linebackers are very fast. I think that they're able to get out to the flats very well, but they do a great job of scheming as well. Bringing pressure, they'll bring Ifangu down into the box to be able to make plays. Very stout in terms of their run defense, and as well talking about that speed. Their linebackers have great closing speed, and I think that they're going to have a very large impact on this game to be able to help the 49ers win this game. Now flipping over to the other side, talking about the strengths of the Eagles. Again, running the football, averaging just under 150 yards per game on the ground. That is absolutely monster. They gashed the Giants last week. Again, absolutely killed me, but it was really just incredible what they're doing. It seems like Lane Johnson is holding up at right tackle. We all know that he's going to have surgery after the season, but if he's able to hold up, the rest of their offensive line is phenomenal, and I think that they're really, again, going to try and run the football. It will be a challenge, again, for both sides, but it'll definitely be on their agenda. They do a great job of taking advantage of their deep threats between A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith. Those are just two very dynamic receivers, and it seems that they don't really miss those deep shots. So that's definitely going to be a key for them. Their pass rush has been incredible. They led the NFL in sacks this year. Hassan Reddick has been an absolute monster. They have multiple guys that they've been rotating in at defensive tackle, keeping guys fresh, keeping that motor running. And the last key I'll talk about is their secondary is very, very good. It hurts me that I'm talking about James Bradbury right now. He did get an interception last weekend against the Giants, but their cornerbacks are really just phenomenal, their entire back end, and I think that they're going to try and leverage that in a position where they are able to have their guys, whether it be 4, 5, 6. Obviously, they'll be mixing it up, but definitely trying to get home on Brock Purdy. So, moving on to my pick for this game, and I'll give you guys a little bit of reasoning why. And again, I swear it's not just because I'm a Giants fan. I'm going to be taking the 49ers with the points. So, on the books right now, I'm recording this on Wednesday, so these lines again are subject to change. But if you see it at plus 2.5, or if you want to buy up that half point and get it to plus 3, I think that's pretty fair as well. You'll still have pretty good odds on that. But the way that I see this game going is it's two very similarly matched teams. They love to run the ball. They have great defenses. It just seems like this line has stayed pretty consistent at minus 2.5. And I just think that Vegas sees this as a field goal game. I do as well. And the thought process behind that is, in a field goal game, I'll take the points. I do think that the Niners can go in and win this game, but I think at the end of the day, I've been on the losing end of some Jake Elliott field goals at the buzzer in the past. I think that could be the scenario again, but I think it's really just going to be a close game. Going to be an absolute dogfight, and I think in that spot you just have to take the points. So I'll take the 49ers at plus 2.5. So moving on to the second game of the evening, kicking off around 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time on CBS, will be the AFC Championship Game between the Cincinnati Bengals and the Kansas City Chiefs. And very interestingly, this line currently, as I'm looking at it here again on Wednesday night, just about 5 o'clock, is the Cincinnati Bengals a 1-point favorite. Now, this is very interesting because of the Patrick Mahomes news. Last week against the Jaguars, it was sort of an awkward tackle that was made on him. It came out that he has a high ankle sprain. He did obviously end up going back into the game and helped them win last week over definitely a very underrated Jaguars team and a team that will be very feisty in the future going forward. But the line has moved a lot. I kind of forget exactly where the line opened up. I think it was somewhere around Chiefs, maybe minus 2.5 or minus 2, minus 3, somewhere in that range. But we saw just a rock to the bottom of the ocean. Flipping that many points is just absolutely incredible. Some people really worried about the health of Patrick Mahomes. But news coming out today that Patrick Mahomes was a full participant in practice today on Wednesday. Maybe take that with a grain of salt. Obviously, some smoke screens going up here in the postseason. He certainly went back in to play the game last week, but some swelling definitely could have occurred after he already injured it. They taped it up and put him back in, but I don't really see any way that Patrick Mahomes will not be playing in this game. It's a very big grudge match. It's obviously the AFC Championship game, so I think he's going to be all systems go, but definitely good news for Chiefs fans coming out of today. Again, Patrick Mahomes as a full participant in practice. So I think, like I mentioned at the top of the video, that these are two very similarly built teams. They both have very, very dynamic offenses. They have great playmakers on defense, and I feel like this is going to be, again, a one-possession game. It's very interesting around where it's hovering, and I'll get to my pick a little bit later. But two very dynamic offenses built very similarly, and I'm interested to see the chess moves that both teams are going to try and make to counter each other, and again, just put themselves in the best spot to represent the AFC in the Super Bowl. So moving on to the strengths of these two teams, we'll start with Cincinnati. The first thing I wrote down was they have a healthy quarterback in Joe Burrow. He's been playing phenomenal. Their team has been on an absolute tear, as most, I think all of the teams coming into the postseason. The Eagles sort of lost those 2 games at the end, but without Jalen Hurts, we're not really going to take too much into consideration from those games. But I think that for Cincinnati, it's important that they have Joe Burrow healthy. Yes, Patrick will be playing. We're not sure, percentage-wise, what he's going to be at. Obviously, he's going to be all systems go, but that may not actually mean that he's at 100%. He's able to extend plays. We see a lot of quarterbacks really starting to take off more, get those important yards with the legs, and we'll have to see where Patrick is, as the game goes on in terms of his health. So I did want to add that as a key. Obviously, that's a little bit of a caveat. We'll see what Patrick is looking like. The Bengals have incredibly dynamic wide receivers. All 3 of their wide receivers are capable of monster games, whether it be Jamar Chase or T. Higgins or Tyler Boyd. Hayden Hurst had a pretty big game last week. They have a very dynamic offense. And even Joe Mixon out of the backfield, I think they're going to try and get him involved. P. Ryan will be around on those 3rd downs, so look for him out of the backfield. But they do a very dynamic wide receiving group in general. They have a great defensive line. I love their bookends in terms of rushing the passer. So it'll be interesting to see if they're able to get home, see if they're going to have to try and scheme some things up against this pretty good Chiefs offensive line. And the last thing, they have some pretty good guys on the back end, whether it be Jesse Bates leading the boys. I think that they, again, have some playmakers at the position, and they might be able to steal a possession and ultimately help them win the game overall. As we flip the script, we'll go over to the Kansas City Chiefs, talk about some of their strengths. The first one I've written down in all caps, his name is Travis Kelce, and he is him. Obviously the best tight end in the league. He had 14 receptions last week. He had 2 touchdowns last week. He's really just Himothy, and I think they're going to turn to him a lot in this game. I think they've, Hayden Hurst has played well, but I think obviously Kelce's the best tight end in the game, and he'll certainly be a handful for these Bengals. Safeties, linebackers, corners. I'm sure they're going to be mixing up the coverage on him all game long, but regardless, whoever it is, it's going to be a challenge. I love the Chiefs' offensive line. I think, again, they're a top 5 offensive line. They made some good improvements over the offseason. They have been running the ball well. They've been giving Patrick time. Again, a little bit of a sort of a freak roll-up last week. They've been keeping him healthy, keeping him up, giving him time to make plays. And when that happens, Patrick Mahomes makes plays. We all know that. I think that the offensive scheme of the Chiefs is spectacular as well. I think that they really use the entire field. They have some deep threat guys. They have Kelce solidified over the middle on those out routes, picking up those key 3rd downs. They have, a very hard runner in Isaiah Pacheco. You can parlay that with a guy like Jerick McKinnon, who's been pretty quiet. He was pretty quiet last week, I thought, but we'll see if he's really able to make an impact. He came on incredibly strong. I think the last 6 weeks he had like 8 touchdowns or something like that. So look for him coming out of the backfield. And ultimately, the Chiefs are playing at home at Arrowhead, one of the historically loud stadiums in the NFL, as well as the Eagles having that similar advantage over at the Link with those Philly fans going crazy. But I think that's a massive piece for them. Being at home, having that crowd with their back, may just give them that extra push to get them over the edge in this one. So moving on to my pick for this game, I'm actually going to take the over. So I think that The sides are so questionable. Joe Burrow's 3-0 in these games against Patrick Mahomes, which really makes me want to bet on the Chiefs. I think that they're such a great team. They're honestly just as efficient, just as good without Tyreek Hill, which is sort of blasphemous to say. Obviously, you'd want to have Tyreek Hill. I'm sure you'd take him back, 100 times out of 100, but the way that this offense has evolved, I think that, they really have a great shot in this game. Bengals have been really hot. Defense played really well last week against Buffalo. So I just want to take the over. And that's strictly for the reason that I think points are going to win this game. I think that sort of the opposite of the 49ers and Eagles game. I think the points are going to be at a premium there. I think it's going to be an absolute battle in the trenches. I think that this could be an absolute air raid battle between these two teams. I think that whoever is going to win this game may have to score 4 touchdowns to do that. This total of 47.5 has hit in all 3 matchups they've played previously. So I'm just going to ride with the over. I like the play. You're watching the game. You want to bet the over. It's always just a great feeling to have. So for those reasons, I'm going to ride with the over of 47.5 in this game. And finally, as we move on to the FrankieBones Best Bet Parlay, 2 of these picks I have highlighted with both the games earlier, as well as 2 anytime touchdowns, just to even some things out, give us a couple more legs, get those odds a little higher, and hopefully get us a decent amount of coin this weekend as we head into the big game. So, starting things off here from the top, like I had mentioned, I like the 49ers. I think it's going to be a field goal game. I like 49ers plus 2.5 with the points. Can buy it up again to 3 if you'd like, but just seems like a field goal game. I feel like Vegas knows it's going to be a field goal game. That's why the line was set there. It's why it stayed there. I think there's going to be a lot of control, whether it be running the football, really putting emphasis on picking up those third downs, giving yourself a good shot to just continue the drive. In that spot, I'm just going to take the points. I think it's going to be a dogfight, so I'll take the Niners plus 2.5. For that game, I'm going to go with your boy George Kittle, anytime touchdown. And a couple reasons for this. The first being he has not scored in the last 2 games. But looking back at his regular season numbers, putting up 11 touchdowns, just 1 shy of Travis Kelce, who led all tight ends in the league. George Kittle had 7 touchdowns in his last 4 regular season games. I think that the game plan may change a little bit for this week. It's going to be all hands on deck. Everybody's going to need to contribute. I think the Eagles may pack it in sort of when they get down into the red zone, make Brock Purdy make a play, and I think Kittle's going to get in. I mean, come on. He's a fun guy. We'll take that. He hasn't scored in the last 2 weeks. He scored the 4 weeks prior 7 times. With 3 of those weeks being 2 touchdown games, I think he gets in here for a touchdown to cash out the anytime. The other pick that I gave out for the Cincinnati Bengals Kansas City Chiefs game, we'll ride with the over 47.5. Again, touching on it quickly, I think this is going to be an offensive duel. I think the winner of this game will have to score a lot of points, and this total has hit the past 3 times that they've played. With Joe Burrow winning all 3 of those, doesn't really matter, but I think there's going to be a lot of points scored in this one. And to wrap things up, to wrap up the 4-leg FrankieBones Best Bet Parlay, we have Travis Kelce, anytime touchdown. So, looking at his numbers, he had 12 touchdowns on the year, like I'd mentioned before. Sort of looking at his postseason stats overall, and in particular over the past few years, he's had 3+ touchdowns in his previous 3 postseason runs. Right now he's at 2. He had 2 last week, going up and playing at home, not going up, but going up against the Jaguars, he had 2. And sort of just looking at his overall body of work, he's going to be getting the ball to Travis Kelce. Again, he had 14 receptions last week. I don't see why he's going to have any less than 7 or 8, and I just find it hard to believe that one of them isn't going to end up in the end zone. So going over those quickly, we have the Niners plus 2.5. We have George Kittle anytime touchdown. We have the Bengals and Chiefs over 47.5. And to wrap it up, we have Travis Kelce anytime touchdown. These odds that I have pulled up here were provided by FanDuel. Again, these odds are subject to change. And we had this locked in at plus 1290. So a decent chunk of coin that you can get back in return on this. Obviously, it's a 4-legger, so tail with caution. Make sure that you're betting responsibly. Sort of understand the logistics of a parlay. The likelihood it may happen, but I'm feeling really good about this. I think it's going to be a tight end bonanza this weekend. I think George Kittle is going to get in just based off of what I think may happen as the Niners get down into the red zone. And Travis Kelce is honestly just that guy. They're both Himothy, both of their first names. And I think we'll cash it for a cool $12.90. But let me know in the comments down below who you guys are taking in this game. Who's your team, who you guys are pulling for, and possibly any parlays that you guys have that you think everybody should see and potentially tail. But for now, that's going to do it for this video, guys. I hope that everybody enjoys a great weekend of football ahead. Football and Call of Duty, I should add. I'll definitely be tuning into Call of Duty League throughout the weekend when the boys of Optic are playing. But I really appreciate all the support on the past few videos. We're on the road to 100 subscribers, so I really appreciate all the support. Everybody watching the videos, everybody subscribing, liking, sharing. Really just happy with how the process has been going so far. Really enjoyed making these videos for you guys, and hopefully you are enjoying them as well. But again, that's going to do it for this video. This has been your boy Frankie Bones, and I look forward to seeing you guys in the next one. Peace out.